Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to GMA24 Update News Channel. Hope you will enjoy our news video. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here is the news title. Rachel Reeves reveals the way Nigel Farage could become Prime Minister in 2029. The Chancellor has set out how Labour will be ousted from office at the next election, unless they get one major thing right. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has warned her party that Nigel Farage could be Britain's next Prime Minister if Labour fails, to get one major thing right over the coming years. Speaking candidly at a live podcast recording last night, Ms. Reeves spelt out how reform could sweep to power in 2029. The under-fire Chancellor said reform is relying on Labour to make no improvements to the health service or cost of living. Delivering the major wake-up call to her Labour colleagues, she told comedian Matt Ford, "There's lots of strategies for beating reform or beating the Tories, but in the end we have to deliver, haven't you? At the next election, if people still find it hard to get a doctor's appointment and they're no better off, they are going to kick us out, like they kicked the last lot out." She added that Labour have to show that we can be better, and that Nigel Farage will want to tell voters in 2029, "Things haven't got better, so give us a go." The second-in-command added, "We've got to show that people's lives are better after 5 years of a Labour government." Labour is under siege from reform, according to current polls, frequently placing in second place after the insurgent right-wing party. Reform has come first, or joint first in 4 of the last 5 polls, from a range of companies including YouGov, Opinium, and Find Out Now. All other polls suggest it is broadly a 3-way dead tie between Labour, Reform, and the Tories at the moment. Labour is currently launching a new campaign focusing on border security and migrant deportations in an attempt to counter the threat from Nigel Farage, including using Facebook ads with the same teal color used by his party. Meanwhile, the Tories are bickering about whether to go for an electoral pact with Reform, something Nigel Farage has coldly dismissed as a possibility. Ms. Reeves was speaking on the Political Party podcast in central London. She also insisted that a deal can be done with Donaldy Trump to get him to abandon plans to whack British steel exports with a 25% trade tariff. Speaking ahead of Sir Keir Starmer's planned first visit to the White House, Ms. Reeves insisted, "We have got a steel sector that's really important to our economy. About 10% of the steel we make in Britain gets exported to the US. That's an important market for us. We also import steel from the US as well. And as I said, we don't have a trade surplus with America. I strongly believe that a deal can be done." She said, "Unlike many other countries around the world, we don't run a trade surplus with the US. Donald Trump previously said, Britain's trade deficit with the US is not as bad as the EU's, Mexico's, Reeves, or Canada's. Warns Labour. How Nigel Farage could become Prime Minister in 2029 introduction. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has issued a stark warning to the Labour Party, outlining the very real possibility of Nigel Farage becoming Britain's next Prime Minister in 2029. Speaking at a live podcast event, she made it clear that unless Labour delivers on key issues such as healthcare and the cost of living, Reform UK could sweep to power in the next general election, with polling suggesting a highly competitive 3-way race between Labour, Reform, and the Conservatives. The political landscape for the next 5 years is fraught with challenges. The rise of Reform. UKR Reform UK, spearheaded by Nigel Farage, has surged in popularity in recent months. According to polls from YouGov, Opinium, and Find Out Now, Reform has placed first or joint first in 4 of the last 5 polls. This rise signals growing discontent with the traditional 2-party system, as voters seek alternatives that better represent their frustrations and concerns. Key factors: driving Reform's popularity, disillusionment with Labour and the Conservatives. Many voters feel let down by both major parties, perceiving them as out of touch with everyday struggles. Concerns over immigration and border security. Reform has capitalized on dissatisfaction with the current immigration system, pushing for stricter controls. Economic struggles and cost of living crisis. With inflation and economic instability hitting households hard, Reform's messaging resonates with those looking for change. Farage's charismatic leadership. As a seasoned political campaigner, Farage knows how to connect with voters in a way that traditional politicians often struggle to do. Labor's challenge. Delivering tangible results. Rachel Reeves' warning to Labor colleagues is clear. The party must show that people's lives have improved under a Labor government. Failure to deliver on key promises will result in voter dissatisfaction, leaving the door wide open for reform. Key areas where Labor must deliver. Healthcare. If NHS wait times remain long and access to doctors remains difficult, Labor risks losing credibility. Economic growth and living standards. Improving wages, reducing inflation, and lowering the cost of essentials will be crucial. Crime and public safety. Addressing rising crime rates and ensuring a safer Britain will be pivotal in securing voter confidence. Immigration policies. Labor must strike a balance between humane policies and addressing public concerns over border control. The Conservative Party's dilemma. The Conservative Party finds itself in a precarious position. Internally divided, there are debates over whether to form an electoral pact with Reform UK. While some within the Tory ranks believe that a partnership could be their best chance at preventing a Labour government, Nigel Farage has repeatedly dismissed this idea. Potential outcomes for the Tories. A shift. Further right. In an attempt to win back voters defecting to Reform, the Conservatives may adopt stricter immigration and economic policies. Leadership changes. Rishi Sunak's leadership will likely be scrutinized as the party strategizes for the next election. A three-way battle. If no pact is formed, the election will likely be a highly unpredictable contest between Labour, Reform, and the Tories. The US factor. Labour's trade strategy. In addition to domestic concerns, Labour faces challenges on the international stage. Rachel Reeves highlighted the importance of securing a deal with Donald Trump to prevent a 25% tariff on British steel exports. With Trump likely to make a political comeback, Labour must navigate complex trade negotiations to protect British industries. Key trade challenges. Steel tariffs. Ensuring that Britain's steel sector remains competitive. Maintaining US-UK relations. Strengthening ties with the US while protecting British interests. Post-Brexit trade strategy. Building new trade partnerships beyond the EU. Conclusion. Rachel Reeves's warning serves as a wake-up call to Labour. Deliver meaningful change or risk losing power in 2029. Nigel Farage's Reform UK is gaining momentum, fueled by public frustration and a desire for alternative leadership. As Britain moves toward another critical election, Labour, the Conservatives, and Reform will battle over the future direction of the country. The coming years will determine whether Labour can solidify its position or if a political upheaval will see Nigel Farage rise to the highest office Savage's new Labour minister who says people can identify as llamas. The outspoken Reform MP sparked laughter in the House of Commons with his jibe. Health Secretary Wes Streeting replied, "I can just say to the honourable member that my honourable friend the Minister for Public Health believes in treating every human being with the dignity and respect they deserve, even the honourable gentleman." Ms. Dalton was appointed a Health and Social Care Minister after Andrew Gwynn left the government when derogatory remarks he made in a WhatsApp group came to light. The Labour MP for West Lancashire said on X, formerly Twitter, in 2016 that we shouldn't have gendered bathrooms at all. In another social media exchange in the same year, before she was an MP, Ms. Dalton signaled her support for gender self-identification, trending Lee. Anderson made a hilarious quip about Labour's new health minister in the Commons today. The Reform MP took aim at Ashley Dalton over her previous claims that people can identify as llamas. Mr. Anderson, who represents Ashfield, said, "The new health minister has stated that it's okay for a human being to present as a llama. So what I want to know is if I have a family member who presents as a llama, suddenly becomes ill in the middle of the night, do they send for a doctor, a vet, or a straitjacket? His comment sparked laughter from other MPs in the House of Commons. Health Secretary Wes Streeting replied, "I can just say to the honorable member that my honorable friend the Minister for Public Health believes in treating every human being with the dignity and respect they deserve, even the honorable gentleman." Ms. Dalton was appointed a Health and Social Care Minister after Andrew Gwynn left the government when derogatory remarks he made in a WhatsApp group came to light. The Labour MP for West Lancashire said on X, formerly Twitter, in 2016 that we shouldn't have gendered bathrooms at all. In another social media exchange in the same year, before she was an MP, Ms. Dalton signaled her support for gender self-identification. When asked if people should take someone seriously if they identify as a llama, Ms. Dalton signaled they should do so with dignity and respect, in a post that appears to have since been deleted. The Prime Minister's official spokesman yesterday sought to distance Sir Keir Starmer from the past remarks of the new minister. Labour dropped a pledge to introduce gender self-identification for trans people without a medical diagnosis in 2023 after it had previously promised to do so. At the time, the party said medical diagnosis helped to uphold confidence in the gender identification system. Jibe, a political analysis of identity politics in modern Britain introduction. The recent House of Commons exchange between Reform MP Lee Anderson and Labour's newly appointed Health Minister Ashley Dalton has reignited debates surrounding identity politics in the UK. Anderson's quip about individuals identifying as llamas was not merely a throwaway joke. Rather, it encapsulated the broader cultural and political divide on issues of gender identity, self-identification, and free speech. This analysis explores the underlying themes of this exchange, the political ramifications for both Labour and Reform UK, and the wider societal impact of such discussions. Context of the exchange: Ashley Dalton, Labour MP for West Lancashire, has previously expressed support for gender self-identification, a stance that has proven controversial within UK political discourse. A resurfaced 2016 tweet, in which she suggested that gendered bathrooms should be abolished, coupled with previous social media interactions supporting self-identification, provided fodder for Anderson's Commons intervention. In response, Anderson sarcastically asked whether a person identifying as a llama should be treated by a doctor, a vet, or confined with a straitjacket. His comments elicited laughter from some MPs, while others viewed them as derisive and dismissive of discussions surrounding gender identity. Health Secretary Wes Streeting responded with a measured rebuke, stating that every human being deserves dignity and respect, even the honorable gentleman. His response aligned with Labour's attempts to strike a balance between inclusivity and appeasing voters, wary of extreme positions on gender identity. The political divide on identity politics. The incident highlights the broader ideological rift between the left and right in the UK over gender self-identification. Labour, under Keir Starmer, has distanced itself from previous commitments to gender self-identification without medical intervention, opting instead for a more cautious approach. The decision to withdraw the pledge in 2023 was seen as an attempt to retain middle ground voters who might be uncomfortable with rapid changes in gender policies. Reform UK, represented by Anderson, has taken a populist approach, leveraging skepticism toward progressive social policies as a rallying point. Anderson's comments reflect a broader strategy employed by the party to present itself as a defender of common sense against what they portray as extreme or impractical ideological positions. Public and media reaction. The media reaction to Anderson's comments was predictably polarized. Right-leaning outlets framed his remarks as a justified pushback against Labour's stance on gender issues, while left-leaning commentators criticized the remarks as inflammatory and trivializing of serious discussions on identity. Social media reactions mirrored this divide, with many conservatives applauding Anderson's plain-speaking style and progressive voices condemning what they saw as a degrading mockery of gender identity issues. For Labour, Dalton's resurfaced comments and Anderson's attack pose an electoral challenge, Starmer has been working to rebuild Labour's appeal among traditional working-class voters, many of whom hold conservative views on gender identity, ensuring that Labour's policy on this issue remains balanced and does not alienate either side of the debate will be crucial. The electoral implications. This exchange underscores the political tightrope Labour must walk as it prepares for the next general election. While younger, urban voters generally support progressive stances on gender identity, many traditional Labour strongholds in working-class areas remain skeptical. The challenge for Labour is to uphold its commitment to inclusivity while avoiding electoral backlash from voters who feel alienated by discussions on gender self-identification. Reform UK, on the other hand, benefits from such exchanges by solidifying its identity as a party willing to challenge political correctness and progressive orthodoxy. Anderson's remarks, regardless of their polarizing nature, serve to elevate Reform UK's profile in a political landscape where cultural and identity debates continue to gain prominence. Conclusionally, Anderson's comments in Parliament are emblematic of a broader cultural and political divide in the UK. While his jibe may have been intended as a humorous critique, it touches upon deeply divisive issues concerning identity, respect, and political correctness. Labour's response, aimed at maintaining dignity while avoiding full commitment to self-identification policies, reflects its strategic positioning in an increasingly complex electoral landscape. As debates over gender identity continue to shape political discourse, parties across the spectrum will need to carefully navigate public sentiment to avoid alienating key voter bases.